it is a sad day to be a Cowboys fan.
Is it?
I mean, I think it's a sad day because of what happened to DeMarvion Overshown.
Gotcha.
Now, everybody might have their own reasons, and everybody might be like, hey, it's been a really long time to be sad to be a Cowboys fan, but I'm just really sad about a late injury to what looked like surely one of your most promising players, and now, obviously, he'll be out for the rest of the year. Who the hell knows about next year and going forward?
Yeah, I would not anticipate him being back next year.
And that's so sad to me.
It absolutely is, considering how you just said the word promising.
Yeah.
But when it comes to electric players, he was the one that you were going to see a flash play from him maybe twice a game. And it wasn't necessarily a sack, but it was some sort of big play.
Yeah.
Whether it was a play dropping back into coverage and knocking down a pass, or whether it was a big hit or a sack, you were going to see something exciting out of DeMarvion Overshown, and you don't get to see that. That's the part I'm upset for fans is, we went most of the season without being able to see Micah play in these games, and now you lose Overshown for what could be almost a year and a half.
And then you got to see them in tandem.
Yeah.
Parsons with
exciting.
Overshown, and that was a blast to see as well.
Yeah, no, that was exciting to start dreaming up and then thinking, okay, what's my secondary going to look like healthy? You got a little bit of a glimpse of that last night. Quite honestly, there were some moments last night that should have been blown out, but because your secondary is pretty good, you were actually in a better situation at the end of the game.
I know people want to talk about the block punt. I know we did like this exact same thing 3 years ago. I know people want to talk about what Troy Aikman said about Mike McCarthy, about if the season's over in terms of playoffs. I get all that, and this is your forum. If you want to voice those opinions, you want to hit up the Frankel and Frankel Injury Attorney text line, 877-881-1053, or the YouTube or the Twitch. My number one takeaway from this, and it's not even close, because if the Cowboys would have won, great. Do I think they could win at Carolina? Absolutely. That would put them at 7-7. But I had no thoughts that this team was going to go anywhere. It's one of the players that I thought you could build around in DeMarvion Overshown is out. And who knows about next year? Who knows about the rest of his career? I mean, if you saw his tweet when he was, throwing up the prayers, and if you've seen the hit, it is just horrific, right to his knee. He had a knee injury last year. I'm hoping for the best for him. He's a good dude, but that's my number one takeaway, is one of the people that I thought was going to be a building block for this defense is, at least for now, out of the picture.
Do you agree with this from the 972? You should have just tanked and sat your starters so that this wouldn't happen?
I will say this.
Still got all these games left and tickets sold.
I understood why they continued to play when they had 7 losses. I will admit that. Even though, again, I didn't think they were going to win their last 5 games, I understand that you're like, hey, if you win 5 in a row, you can make it to the playoffs. I did get that. So as much as I want a better draft pick, I understand why they didn't go that route. Now that they lost that game, I am somewhat perplexed about our strategy going forward when Cooper Rush is clearly the better quarterback. And okay, let's see what happens.
If you are a healthy player, then you're more likely going to be like, yeah, I want to be out there. Athletes want to play.
I can't imagine.
They want to play their game. That's just how they want. Some of them are at the end of their career, and they know they only have a few of these left. Some of them are at the beginning of their career, and they're trying to prove something. But if you're healthy, you want to get out there and play, and coaches probably aren't going to stop you from it. And if you are one of those guys that's like, I got a nick here, I got a little bruise here that I'm dealing with, you're more likely to sit. But otherwise, you're probably going to see those guys that are healthy getting out there and wanting to play.
And from the 972, I get it now. They're meaningless games. To me, in terms of playoff position, I realize you're still mathematically alive, but I'm totally with you about that. But, Mike, I was going to ask you whether it was you personally or other people you played with, did you get the sense when, you knew you weren't going to make the playoffs, so the season was essentially over, but you still had games to play, that people were still anxious to get out there? Or did you get the sense that some players were like, we're not going anywhere, I'll take some time off?
No, I can remember this. This is a story that I guess the Mets were trying to win when I was on the Mets. The Nationals were a rebuilding franchise, so there's a difference there. is we have a horrible August, and then in September, I can't remember what happened. We beat Montreal. I don't remember the series. Like, did we win the series or what's going on? Are we on a winning streak? I don't remember that, but I do remember Mike Piazza getting up on the plane as guys are kind of having a good time and celebrating what they're doing in the month of September. August was a month that killed the playoff chances. And he kind of said, where were you guys when we needed you? Yeah, when nothing's on the line, you guys are producing. Where were you when things were on the line, when we needed wins?
Yeah.
So he was kind of ticked off at the team for maybe why weren't we playing this way when things were, there was a chance to do something.
Yeah.
Now when there's nothing to do, you guys seem to be producing. Kind of no pressure. You guys are better, I guess, with no pressure. I'm adding now. He didn't say those things, but you still go to the park and it's a different sport. So because of 162 versus 17 is just so different. Sure. But yeah, you go to the park and you know that you have a job to do, but there is a sense, there is definitely when you are playing for something, or you can sense if you're playing a team that is playing for something, the environment is different. So I'm assuming, not going to the game last night, I'm assuming a 4-8 versus 5-7 team. There's definitely a different atmosphere, a different vibe in December. Like, trying to think of maybe when you go play Philadelphia, like there'll be a different vibe because they'll be playing for like the 1 seed.
Yeah.
I don't, I'm trying to put it into, but down the stretch, if it's 2 teams playing for something versus 2 teams playing for nothing, you can sense the environment is very different, but you're trying to do your best, but you definitely are not feeding off crowd energy at that point.
Yeah, I heard Sean this morning, and I understand the logistics of a loss can get you a better draft pick. I'll say the same thing that I said before. Even no matter how unlikely it was, I was absolutely rooting for the Cowboys to win last night. I was pissed when they lost the punt block that, it happened and then it fumbled away. I was so mad about that. I was mad when the move got put on Deron Bland and they broke off the 40-yard touchdown that ended up being the game winner. I understand all the logic of, hey,
that team quit right then, I believe. I feel
after
like
that,
after the punt block situation, I felt like they just went, whatever, man.
And I felt everything where Mike had just kept looking up at the scoreboard and being like, what, why, how? And so I understand you want a better draft pick. I get all of that, and maybe I'll come around to that. But last night, that wasn't the time. I was rooting for the Cowboys to win. I was hoping you'd bring some excitement around here, and it would be 3 in a row. You would have a potentially winnable game against Carolina, and I know that game is still there, but it just doesn't feel like it particularly matters anymore. So if you're excited about the win, I'm not going to tell you how to fan. I personally was not. I was really, really disappointed that the Cowboys lost.
I appreciate you, Kevin, saying you're not going to tell anybody how to fan.
That's right. I learned from you guys.
That is a good way to go about it because everybody fans a little bit differently.
True.
Everybody can fan the way that they want. And so, yeah, last night when I sat down to watch the game, part of it with the Simpsons, part of it not with the Simpsons, I was like, all right, I want to be entertained tonight. But my notes were a lot more lackluster than usual just because I kind of know where everything is here. But I wanted to see some good football. There were some big plays. Watching Rico Dowdle run the football last night was really nice. Watching him run behind an offensive line that was doing their job right was really nice to see. That offensive line didn't get flagged 500 times throughout the night like we have seen in the past. So, I don't know, man, is Brock Hoffman your center in the future? Or is Brock Hoffman a guard that you could use? I mean, with Cooper Beebe's injury, that was a little concerning there. And so you're kind of seeing...
Yeah, because he got a concussion too.
You're definitely evaluating your offensive line. That's a fact right now, trying to figure out what pieces work completely together. And then, you asked the question, is Dowdle a fine backup running back? Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe even a good part of a good combination. Man, can you imagine him and a Genty together? I'm just saying, imagine that if you want to for a little bit. So there were some things that were entertaining last night, and that's all I want for the rest of the season. And that's all I've really asked for is just be more entertaining football, not something where I'm just like, man, I'm watching people throw it into the dirt all night.
I'm going to be really fascinated, and I know this is probably for tomorrow, the rest of the week and everything. I'm interested to see how this Carolina game plays out because these feel like two fairly fairly equally matched teams, give or take. And I see a lot of people thinking that the Cowboys are just going to be like, whatever.
And just throw in the towel
just
against them?
from a mentality standpoint, is they're just going to be like, I don't even care, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And you see a Carolina team that it looks like they care. They've been playing better. Bryce Young surely cares because he's like, hey, I'm still fighting for my NFL starter life.
Oh, he absolutely has a job that he's wanting right now.
And so I am curious to see just the mental aspect of that game outside of neither one of those teams are a particularly good team.